It's a hot June day in Austin, Texas. Congress Avenue has the usual mid-morning traffic. At Barton Springs, some are escaping the oppressive heat by swimming in the cool, clear spring water. Others are achieving varying degrees of tan or sunburn on the grassy banks. At City Hall, the City Council is listening to the complaints of a citizens group, urging paving of the streets around Zilker School. On the campus of the University of Texas, the shirt-sleeve summer students are going to and from their classes. At the Paramount Theater, Man on a String is playing to an audience of shoppers, students, and a few hooky-playing businessmen. Tom Atra is selling the noon edition of the Austin Statesman on his familiar corner. In Harry Reasonover's barber shop in the Driscoll Hotel, business is good, with every chair filled. Mary Halbooty, the manicurist, has 2 customers waiting. C.L. Davis is 6 pairs of shoes behind. Dorothy Klukas is hanging out the wash in her backyard, assisted by her 5-year-old daughter, Kathy. Carolyn Gilbert is at her employer's desk in the Perry Brooks building, writing some personal letters while her boss is out of town. Clarence Phillips is having lunch with a prospective insurance customer, Matt Martinez, owner of the El Rancho Mexican restaurant. Bob Gooding is reading the Safeway commercial in the noon news on KTBC radio. When an alarm and radio control sounds, following a procedure long since memorized, Gooding switches on the Conelrad amplifier provided for air raid warnings. A voice tells him to switch to the Conelrad frequency assigned KTBC, 640 kilocycles, and to stand by for further instructions. Gooding immediately calls the radio transmitter to instruct the engineer to switch the KTBC transmitter from 590 to 640 at the prearranged cue. He next secures the Conelrad tape provided according to prearranged plans and threads it on the tape recorder. He manipulates the necessary controls to broadcast the message on the tape over the air. The recorded voice of Jay Hodson advises the audience that this is a Conelrad alert, and they're to switch their radios to the 640 frequency at once. Terrell Blodgett, Assistant City Manager of Austin and City Civil Defense Director, enters the room.
This is your Austin Civil Defense Director with an urgent message. Enemy missiles have been reported over Canada traveling in a southerly direction. An air raid warning has been declared in this area. This means that possibly within 20 minutes, the Austin area may be hit by missiles. There will not be time to evacuate. Repeat, there will not be time to evacuate.
At Bergstrom Air Force Base near Austin, the alert has been sounded, and the men of the 4130th Wing scramble for their giant B-52s, according to a well-rehearsed routine. In the huge fallout shelter room beneath the Department of Public Safety building, the state civil defense team is assembling. Dorothy Klukas is combing her daughter's hair when she hears the announcement on the radio. In the distance, she can hear the sound of sirens and whistles. Her first reaction is to call her husband at his law office in the downtown Brown building. She's puzzled by the sound of a busy signal even before she dials. But Dorothy Klukas does not panic. She knows they are prepared, that their home contains a fallout shelter designed specifically for this emergency. She knows that the shelter room is stocked with at least 2 weeks' supply of canned food, bottled water, and fruit juices. Methodically, she begins to close the windows of her house. Carolyn Gilbert is just finishing her letter when she hears the sirens and whistles. She goes to the window of the office to see if there's a fire in the vicinity. None is apparent. Tom Morgan, who works for an advertising agency next door, enters her office with the information that the building manager has just called and instructed him to order everyone from that floor into the basement of the building. Carolyn imagines it's just some sort of civil defense drill, so she leisurely finishes her letter before leaving for the basement. Clarence Phillips and his insurance prospect hear on the television set that the station is going off the air, and all viewers should dial their radios immediately to the 640 frequency. Matt Martinez turns on the radio. Ignoring the instructions not to attempt to evacuate, Phillips immediately runs to his car. His purpose to get out of town as soon as he can. The streets are jammed. Parents trying to get home to their children. Businessmen trying to get to their families. Panic-stricken people trying to get out of town. Roger Klukas pulls into the driveway of his home and rushes inside. No time for greetings. They immediately go over their plan, prepared earlier for just such an emergency. Water, check. Food, check. Medical supplies, check. Gas and electricity turned off, check. Battery radio, check. Flashlight, check. They are as prepared as they can be. 15 minutes following the alert, the Roger Klukas family enters their fallout shelter room and lock the thick door. "16 minutes past the first alert. Carolyn Gilbert is in the basement of the Perry Brooks building. She's not frightened, only irritated. She's convinced that this is just another practice alert. She's fretting because they won't let her leave to call her mother and tell her that she'll be late for lunch. She's considering writing a complaint to the Director of Civil Defense for this useless inconvenience. Grown men playing war. 17 minutes past the first alert, Clarence Phillips is a very frightened man. He's trying desperately to get out of town. The traffic has delayed him, and now he discovers his car is out of fuel and is coasting to a permanent stop. He leaves the car and on foot continues his flight. By now, the streets of Austin are almost deserted. And then at 19 minutes past the original alert. A nuclear explosion occurs 25 miles to the west of Austin in the hills of the Edwards Plateau.
This is your Austin Civil Defense Director. An explosion, presumed to be nuclear, has occurred near Austin. Persons in shelters, stay where you are. Those who are not in shelters should take cover immediately. If shelters are not available, go to a sub-basement. If a sub-basement is not readily accessible, proceed to the nearest building. Close all doors and windows. Stay on the first floor near the center of the house.
At the State Control Center, the weatherman is working over a fallout map. His findings are teletyped to local civil defense directors around the state. City Civil Defense Director Blodgett is now operating from the basement of the police building.
This is your Austin Civil Defense Director. Heavy radioactive fallout is expected along a line from San Antonio to Waco to Mason to Brenham, and 15 miles on either side of this line. This fallout may be expected at any time. This fallout will be very heavy in the Austin area, and anyone in the open will receive a lethal dose in a short period of time. Take shelter immediately.
In the security of their fallout shelter room, the Roger Klukas families compose as they wait the all clear, which they realize may be several weeks in coming. Dorothy is reading to Kathy, who thinks they're inside because of a storm outside. In the basement of the Perry Brooks building, Carolyn Gilbert has regained her composure and is assisting the building manager in itemizing the supply of food, soft drinks, and beer that was quickly gathered from the nearby PK Grill and Commodore Perry Hotel. On the outskirts of Austin, Clarence Phillips is near exhaustion and continues to walk away from the city. He has but one thought: to get away from this nightmare. In the State Control Center, beneath the Department of Public Safety building, the government of the state of Texas continues to function. A representative from each state agency is on hand in the huge shelter, conducting by telephone, radio, and teletype the affairs of his office. 7 hours after the enemy missile deposited its deadly load in the hills west of Austin, the Roger Klukas family is comfortably eating a supper of canned beef, peas, potatoes, and bottled water. Carolyn Gilbert is munching a cold bologna sandwich that was made to sell for 25 cents some 7 hours ago. Clarence Phillips, several miles outside Austin, is not thinking of food. He has been vomiting for some time now. He is also suffering from diarrhea. For days, the city lies silent. quietly the radioactivity decays. The streets become less deadly. The days become a week, 2 weeks. In the shelter of the Klukas home, the occupants are becoming restless. They long for sunlight and fresh air. And then the news they've been waiting for comes over the radio.
This is your Austin Civil Defense Director. Our monitors report that radiation in the city is now decayed to a point where those in shelters may come out without harm.
To Roger and Dorothy and Kathy Klukas, this is the end of the storm. To Carolyn Gilbert, this is the answer to a prayer. To Clarence Phillips, this news is of no consequence. And slowly, Austin, Texas returns to life.